Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Let's start our satsang today with a prayer together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great gurus, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Laidima Shaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Master Paramahansa Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, we bow at thy feet. Bless us with the realization of thee, of thy presence within us and all around us, and help us to be ever more attuned to thee. Om Shanti, Shanti. Let's hear a song by Swamiji now. It's called, has this very interesting name, Devil Worship. And I think you'll understand it as you hear it. And then we'll hear a brief excerpt from a talk by Swamiji, and then we'll go forward. Welcome again to everyone.
Brother, I've a faint suspicion you and I've been led astray, taught to drive the devil from us. We've invited him to stay. What we need is light, for we can't drive out the darkness with a stick, with a stick. No, we can't drive out the devil with a stick. Some proclaim all men are sinners, can't escape the devil's might. How their interest must intrigue him, they won't let him out of sight. What we need is light, for we can't drive out the darkness talking sin, talking sin. No, we can't drive out the devil talking sin. Some of us were taught the slogan, social evils must be slain. But can anger drive out sorrow, and can passion conquer pain? What we need is light, for we can't drive out the darkness while we hate, while we hate. No, we can't drive out the devil while we hate. Brother, have you ever wondered why the darkness lingers on? If we want to see the sunrise, let us turn and face the dawn. What we need is light, for we'll only beat the darkness when we love, when we love. Yes, we'll only beat the devil when we love.
In this respect, there was that interesting story of Norman, who left Mount Washington because he couldn't stand one of the monks there. And he came back a year or two later and he said, "Remember how I couldn't stand Jerry? In the place where I'm working, there are 6 other men exactly like him." The kind of, he was running away from a test, and as a result, that test became bigger. Let's put it this way, he made it bigger by making himself smaller, by defining it as big. And as a result, that energy relative to the energy that he was putting out to defend himself, which was no longer, he decided against defending and decided for escape, he became smaller in his ability to handle it. When you try to run away from your problems, they only become bigger for you. You can overcome them only by standing and facing them. I've always remembered that story that Master told about a man who was a very good architect, and another man who was not a good architect, and seething with jealousy, decided that he would do this man in because he was always getting the jobs and he couldn't get any of them. And finally, he bribed the workers for this good architect to put much too much sand in the mix. And then he called, it seemed a very generous thing, he called a great meeting of all the prominent people in town in this new building to dedicate it and to praise this great architect who had built it. And he said, never would this architect dream of mixing sand and weakening the mixture of his cement. And to show you how strong it is, I'll show you. And he went and he hit the wall with his fist, and the wall just disintegrated. And of course, this architect, the good architect's reputation was absolutely ruined. And I've always remembered what Master said. He said he was a student of this path. It was a true story. He was a student of this path, and therefore he stayed where he was and continued his work instead of running away. Normally, an architect in that position would just have said, well, I've blown it, and even though it wasn't my fault, I'll just move to another city and start again. But he didn't. He stayed there, and he kept on, and he hardly got any jobs at all. But he always thought about this man who had treated him so badly, and always sent love to him. And in his meditations, he would visualize him and send him love. And after, I don't remember how long it was, but it could have been a year or two, maybe longer. This man finally came to the good architect and said, I can't stand myself. I just can't live with myself anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I see you lovingly smiling at me. And I can't stand it. And he said, please forgive me. And he called a meeting of all these same people and explained what he had done. And not only did the good architect regain his reputation, but the bad architect gained a great deal for his honesty. But the thing that I remembered that I wanted to mention was that the good architect, stayed there to face the situation, the karmic situation that was created. It was something in his karma, and he had to work it out. You can't escape karma by running away. Wherever you are, it'll find you. You can go into a cave in the highest Himalayas, and it'll find you. So you don't run away from these things, but you can change yourself. You can change the quality of whatever you're putting out, the magnetism that you generate. And this is to be done by love, by cheerfulness, by kindness, to remain always even-minded and cheerful.
Good morning again, friends. I'd like to start today this topic, the boomerang effect, going against divine law, with a few quotes from Swamiji. On the path to God, right attitude is the most important thing. Not what you do or say, but the attitude you bring to it. This is something Master always emphasized. Next, negativity from whatever motive creates its own momentum. Master admonished a particular disciple to see the need for curbing righteous anger, even in a good cause. But that man gradually developed a judgmental mood that ultimately separated him from the work. And qualities on which you focus in others, you will attract in return. If you concentrate on goodness, you will attract goodness. But if you concentrate on evil, you cannot but attract evil to yourself. An obsession with the real or imagined impurity of others must infallibly, in the end, result in your developing the same impurity yourself. The point is not whether your judgment is even valid, but only that the judgment itself creates its own magnetism. And Master also said that whatever we criticize in others, we will have to experience personally ourselves, either in this life or in some future incarnation. Two more. Master said, whenever you see wrong in the world, remember it's wrong with you. Our very criticism of others, I'm not referring to that impartial observation, which is a necessary part of discrimination, is not only an indication of qualities that will inevitably attract someday to ourselves, it is also one of the surest indicators of faults we already have in ourselves. And finally, to judge others is to invite judgment in return. not only from others, but on the part of the divine law. Blessed are the merciful, Jesus said, for they shall receive mercy. This is a vital topic on the path for us as disciples. You wonder, why does judgment come in? People are unhappy, basically, generally, maybe. They're looking for perfection. They don't see life in the way the other person does and want to change them and their circumstance and the world. There's so many reasons why people judge others, but we have to realize that that judgment comes like a boomerang effect back upon us. And it's important to change that momentum of that energy. People feel it's okay to constantly criticize, carp, say what's wrong with the organization, what's wrong with your friends, what's wrong with everybody around you, what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with your job, what's wrong with your boss. The list goes on and on and on. But what happens to you when you do that? You start having that affect you and your consciousness and your thoughts, and your energy drops and the moods come upon you and the negativity more and more comes. And then you're just living like that. And that's not how we live on the spiritual path. It's not an excuse. We have to try to shift it, try to change it. And if we're not perfect, I think people are looking for a perfect world. Well, we're not in a perfect world. Maybe you think we are, but it's certainly not. And so we have to head in the direction of doing the right thing, even if we can't do it perfectly, even if we do fall out of line, we have to at least try. And when you see someone else going in that direction, don't get involved in that. Oh, I agree with you. And then the person goes on and on and on, and you just feel a little unclean. You know what I'm saying? There's an unclean feeling when you go that path. I was remembering, I have a wonderful music teacher who just started coming yesterday. And because I'm learning a new instrument, as you know, the esraj, I'm really enjoying this, but I'm not ready to play for anyone yet. But the music teacher showed up. Now, the music teacher was supposed to come 3 days back, and then it was pouring down rain, so he couldn't come. So he canceled. Then he was supposed to come the day after that, and then something came up, and he couldn't come. And I was starting to give up, and I found myself starting to judge and say, well, maybe he's not a true teacher, maybe he doesn't want this, maybe he's not ever going to come, you know. And I found myself going down that path, and I just stopped myself. I said, I don't even know who this man is. How can I judge him? And then Master gave me the right attitude. And it was, why don't you turn that around? And why don't you pray for him? Maybe he needs prayers. He's not feeling well or whatever. And turn the energy around. And I prayed for him that his health is good and whatever. And he came. I think I wasn't ready to receive him, because I just had this energy that was like, he's ever going to come, and he's ever going to teach me. And he said he was going to come, and he didn't come, and on, and he would have never come. But when I shifted and I said, well, okay, I'm going to change my attitude. I want this teacher to come here. And I start putting out a positive energy and a call, into the ether, that a positive call. And he came the next day. And when I opened the door, I said, you came. He didn't know what to think about that, but I knew why he had come, because I shifted my energy. And people wonder, how come my life isn't working? How come nobody likes me? How come I don't have any friends? How come I can't get a job? How come I don't have any money? How come my health has gone down? How come? Well, as Swamiji has said, it's like pushing from both sides of a door. say yes and you say no. You do this and you do that, and you're just not getting anywhere. We have to shift the energy. And this you have to do yourself. You can't sit there and say, Master, you change me, Lord, change me. You got to put energy out yourself, and then the change will happen. And so this is an important point. We should try to be a part of the good. There's enough bad going on out there. We don't have to, why do we have to be a part of it? So let's try to be a part of the positivity, of the goodness, of the light, of a channel for the masters. And I remember someone wrote a very caustic letter, just very negative letter to somebody here in India. And it just wasn't necessary. They were so emotional. And so Swamiji wrote them back. This was years back. And he just wrote out, yeah, no, they had written it to Swamiji, that's right. And he wrote out all the reasons why they should try to change their energy. And then the last one reason they said, wow, I'll never forget. He said, this negative energy and criticism and judgment will only take you away from Ananda. And I know you don't want that. Wow. And those people shifted their energy. And so, you know you don't want to be drawn out, but as long as you fight against the light, you're going to have things that pull you away. And I remember our Crystal Clarity publishers in America, this was years back, decades back, nobody could get along in the department, and they were selling Swamiji's books. They were all arguing, no. And Swamiji finally said, don't sell any books. Don't sell anything until you can have harmony within the group. How can you put these books out and you're not living what's in the books? And this is the point. Are we living? Or are we just saying, I meditate, and then we go out and then we fall apart? And so they got their act together, because he stopped them and he said, this is not the way that you sell my books. And interesting, isn't it? And so remember, anything you're judging is going to come back. And if you put out love and joy and peaceful vibrations, you can't always do it. Just try to do it. Do your best at least, and put that energy out. Then I see every time it comes right back to me. And it corrects situations as well. It corrects me for my own attitude. It corrects maybe other people if they need it. It corrects the circumstance, the situation. But it's so much more yogic. It's the way Master taught. It's the way Swamiji taught. And it's part of our teachings. We should at least try, instead of acting like it's not a part of the teachings. It is. I remember one time also in Italy, when Devi Ji was talking to another staff member there, and I was in the room with them, and I could tell the other staff member was getting more and more heated and more emotional, more and more upset, and Devi Ji was just trying to calm them down and have them see reason, and they just kept flaring up. And so I just left the room. I thought, well, they want to talk about this alone. So I went and I told Jyotishji what was happening. I said, they're in there and this person is very upset, and Deviji's trying to calm her down and it's not working. And he looked at me and says, why did you leave the room? He said, get back in there. Try to be a positive influence. And I did go back in there, and it did help the situation. Sometimes you can get in there and you can help the situation. Other times you can't. But that was a lesson to me. Don't just act like, well, I'm not a part of this, and run out. And the other thing I wanted to mention, it's, we've lived in, at least some of us, ashrams. I lived in ashrams for at least 35 years. Ananda ashrams, Palo Alto, San Francisco, Italy, in America, in India. We had Beaten by Age, Shanti House, various places. And this is a good way to learn to stop judging people. When you're in close quarters, and you're rubbing up against each other. You have to come up with solutions. You have to work as a team. And I remember one time Devi Ji said this, that the principles of Ananda, she told us 2 principles of Ananda and living in community Swamiji gave us were working as a team and being harmonious. And when you live with other people, you have to be harmonious. Well, many people aren't, but you have to try to be harmonious and try to look for what's good for everybody. Not just what do I want? Well, what would everybody like? How can I help? How can I help the situation? And we can do that in our centers. We don't have a community where we have property and all that, where we're all living together, but we certainly have communities. We have, centers, which are communities. And in the centers, there should be harmony. There should be good feeling, camaraderie, service, selflessness. It shouldn't be pulling the center down. It should think positively. And you'll find that you can grow much more quickly and much more deeply. One more thing I wanted to bring up is what can we do in the circumstance now to break the pattern of judgment? Well, one thing is just try being harmonious. I remember Devi Ji asked Swamiji, Jyotish and Devi Ji asked Swamiji once, they were having trouble with some other people and they just couldn't work it out. So they asked Swamiji, is it us? Are we the problem? Or is it them? And Swamiji had the golden answer. And I think this is how I try to remember. He said, you're doing the best for who you are. And they said, was it them? And he said, they're also doing the best for who they are. Isn't that a wonderful answer? And so just try to be harmonious. Everybody's not going to be perfectly the way you would want, or do things the way you want, or see things the way you want, or behave in the way you want. And at a certain point, you just say, I remember I was with my sister recently, my mom in LA, and we were out to lunch. And anyway, so it was getting kind of, my mom was not that happy about something. And so she was saying this. And so my sister was saying this, and my mom was saying this. And I was right across the table from my sister, and I just leaned forward a little bit and I whispered to her, Lori, it's not worth it. And so many times it's just not worth it. Why get riled up? You know that situation is not going to change anytime soon. Just say, it's okay. It's okay. And I know Jayaji and I work together, and we've worked together for dozens and dozens of years before India. And in India, we have peace. We get along very well. He's like my brother. And we've never had an argument. Now, that's a lot to say for somebody you've been working with for decades. And so he might come up with some idea, and I'll say, that's okay. Even if I don't like it. Instead of, I'm not going to do that. And I certainly come up with wild ideas. And he says, okay, let's try it. It's not worth it most of the time, but people just keep going until they're heated and they're arguing, and just leave it. The second one is stay in the vibration of master and the gurus, meaning meditate. Have times when you're in silence, have time when you're in seclusion. I realized the other day, just the masters are shielding us with their light. But if you step outside of that, you're going to have problems. But that shield is there as you do the practices, as you try your best. Everybody's not going to get it right. I certainly haven't gotten it right. And you just keep trying. But if you consciously step out of the light, you're going to have a lot of problems. And my prayer these days is, Master, I do not want to step out of the light ever. I don't want to do anything that displeases you. Please guide me in that direction. And you might have that same thought that, you start veering off. And like Master said, it's in that one reading, that man, he just went off on his own and he left the path. And we don't want to do that. Thirdly, and finally, is to get rid of judgmental and criticizing attitude is I just keep busy. If you stew in things long enough, you're going to find plenty of problems. Master said, why look at the drains? I mean, you can just keep focused on the negative or keep busy. And you keep busy, Master's energy is flowing through you. Keep serving, keep doing things. Soon as you feel like, oh, I'm just about to judge somebody, do something. Send a message out of peace, of gratitude to somebody, or put on the music, or get a chant going, or call up the center. What can I do to serve? Or go online and find a YouTube video of Swamiji. What I'm saying, and finally I was in with this, is you have to guard against it. You can't just hope for the best. There's a force out there, and that force is heavy, and it's always pushing, trying to get into the light. It can't win, but if there's holes in your aura, which you put in there yourself with these wrong attitudes, then it just comes in, like that boy who's had his finger cut off at Mount Washington, I believe it was, but he was in the work, and Master told him, you had a dark cloud over you. That's why it happened. You don't want the dark cloud. You want the light. So work at it. Ask the masters to protect you, and then do your part. And you'll find that you can come out of anything. And you can do Kriya, as we were saying last night. I can't get into that right now, but you can do Kriya, just working out the problems. Offer them to God and bring Master's Shakti, this love and joy into you, and keep offering those things. Don't just say, I hope it works out. It won't. I've never seen it work out for me or anybody else, unless you put your hand to the plow and work on it yourself. Then God and gurus come and help you. God bless you all. I'd like to ask Natindra, my dear friend, to come online, and we have a few questions.
Thank you, Dhyanaji. We have 3 questions. The first one is, sometimes it seems like a boomerang effect does not happen and things seem to go on just fine. So why would that be the case?
Yeah, it seems, but karma catches up with you at one point or another. And then you wonder, why is this happening to me now? But something in the past created it. So you can never escape. It's going to catch you. I remember I heard one talk by an acharya said, karma will chase you down and find you wherever you go. So you can't avoid. It may seem like, okay, I got off easy on that one. I told a lie and I did this and nobody caught me. Well, God sees everything. Master sees everything. And for you to grow, it has to come out. And so things will happen, and I'll tell people, because they'll say, well, that happened, this happened, that, and nothing happened. I said, if you think that's the end of the story, think again. Isn't it? It's not the end of the story. It's a long, long story of each one's life. And then you wonder, how come I got this? How come I got sick? How come the dog bit me? How come this person, my boss shouted at me and I didn't do anything? Isn't it? People say, how come that happened? I didn't do anything. Well, you did do something at some point to draw that. So at that point, better to just say, thank you, God. Thank you, Guru, because whatever it was, they've minimized it from the good karma that they have given you. And the good karma you've accrued on the path, it's been minimized. No?
Absolutely. Thank you. The next one is, what about others' karma who are close to me? Am I also taking on some of their karma?
That's an interesting question. I know Master and a master can take on and did take on people's karma. I mean, he said it himself when his legs were weak or he was paralyzed. That was the disciples' karma. When someone asked Swamiji, when he was ill so many times, you just knew it wasn't just his karma. We asked Swamiji, is it our karma? Are you helping us through this karma? And all he said was, everyone has to do their part. Beautiful answer. So I think with people who are close to us, I'm not sure, but I think if you pray for them, that God help them, maybe he'll help them through you. And certainly Master said 7 generations forward and back on the path will be greatly benefited by your life, by what you're doing. So yes, to the degree that I think there's certain things there, to the degree that they may be open, to the degree of the strength of your own good karma, to how much your guru's karma is helping them. I think there are a lot of things there, but yes, people are helped around you. I mean, you just look at your children. I mean, I see the Samvid, I see the different children in Gurgaon. They're little saints, really. I mean, and they have certainly had good karma to come into this life and be in a spiritual life. And many of them were blessed by Swamiji himself. I saw a picture of Advait. He was 4 years old. Swamiji blessed him with the spiritual life. So the blessings help. And I think all of our efforts and our prayers on behalf of our family members, certainly they help them. And yeah, there are several interesting stories, but we're out of time. So I can't tell those stories, right? Maybe next week. Tune in next week.
Okay, then. One last question quickly.
Okay.
I've tried to get rid of wrong attitudes and behaviors, but I don't get anywhere. So it's easier to just keep going in the wrong ways. So how can I be helped?
I would say that's the lazy man's way. It's a cop-out. I can't help myself. I mean, Master's way was saying, I can, I will. Doing affirmations, do energization, do more Mahamudra. Do this SCL. I'm awake and ready. I'm positive, energetic, enthusiastic. You know, you got to be a warrior. You can't be sitting on the couch. I just see people, help me, God, help, somebody help. You can't get any help. You're not going to get any help until you start helping yourself. And God helps those who help themselves. Everybody in the world knows that statement. And so you have to at least get started, get going. And if you need professional help, get the help. If you need counseling, if you need a doctor's attention, if you need medicine, if whatever, you just got to reach out for help. You can't just think that it's going to go away. That's denial. And as long as that's there, you're not growing spiritually. And Swamiji told certain people, you need professional counseling, or you need the doctor to see you and give you medication. You need a psychiatrist, you need a psychologist, you need to get help. So we can't sort of shove it under the rug and hope for the best. It's not going to happen. You just have more and more things under that rug. But if you really want to change yourself, work on yourself. There's plenty of help around. And the Master surely can help, but God helps through others. He helps through, I know Swamiji told one man who was having a lot of problems to go and see a particular psychologist who could help him. And so it's, as you need it, take the help. Otherwise, you get weaker and weaker and weaker. Then it's too late. Then you have more major problems. You know, as Swamiji said, the problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you get smaller and smaller and smaller. And you wonder what happened. And it's too late. You know, at a certain point, you just don't want to change. I'm not there, believe me. I want to learn Hindi and I want to play instruments and I want to do everything. But sometimes you get to that point, I think later in life, where you just feel like, I'm just too tired. I just don't feel like changing. I don't want to do anything. You don't want to get to that point. You want to keep growing, keep changing, keep all the way. Swamiji told one woman, I'll end with this, she was very, very ill. And she was, I've told you about her before, her name was Happy. I can't go into the story, but she asked him at a certain point, because she lived 10 more years from will, master's power, Kriya, chanting, helping, serving, Swamiji's help. And she asked him, how long should I try to keep this body going? It's not easy. And he said, as long as you can. You're in a human body. You have the blessings of that. Go as far as you can in this incarnation, in that body, and work out as much karma as you can. And I would say the same for all of us. Go as far as you can, work out as much karma as you can in this lifetime with all we have, with the centers and the guru bhais and kriya and everything that we have in our gurus. This is the lifetime to make great progress on the path. God bless you all. Thank you, Natendra. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye-bye.